Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Booktube Chicks Book Club for the month of July. This month we read *The Goddess Test* by Amy Carter, and I know we have a lot of differentiating opinions to talk about tonight, so this should be an interesting live show. If you've never been to one of our live shows before, basically we do like the first 10 or so minutes of spoiler free discussion, just talking about like our initial thoughts and our ratings. And then for the next hour or so after that, we will do spoiler discussion. Um, so, really quick, the synopsis for this book is we have a girl named Kate, and her mother has cancer, and they decide to move to her mom's childhood town called Eden. And um, Kate starts at a new school, but she meets Henry, who, according to the back of the book, is dark and tortured and mesmerizing. um, but he is Hades, and she enters into the goddess test to become the next Persephone. So, as far as initial thoughts are concerned, I'm going to uh, go ahead and pass it over to you, Desiree, since you're right next to me.
Oh man. Um I have a lot of mixed feelings. I feel like they're complex feelings. I was reading and like complaining to Kat like the majority of the time. Um okay, let me like there are things that interested me about it. Like I don't know if they necessarily had chemistry in the beginning, but I think I'm still intrigued um about the relationship with her and Hades. But there was just so many things. There were so many things like the pacing. The pacing felt really weird to me. A good portion of the time, it felt like the relationships made no sense because of the pacing. Like it sounded, as I was reading it, it sounded like very, very little time had gone by, but then like the words would be like, oh, it's been weeks or it's been this, but it just never felt like that much time had gone by. So the pacing always felt off, which made the relationships feel off. um and some of it felt juvenile, like the fact that like the word sex was barely in there, but apparently it's okay to say like slut and whore. That was okay. Like, so that was weird. um so I don't know. I'm still trying to process how I feel about this book. I think it was also strange that it was like why did all these people have different names? Like if they're still who they are, like it wasn't characters representing the Greek mythology and having characteristics of the Greek mythology. It was literally the Greek mythological characters, but yet they had different names and they were sort of living in the world but not living in the world. I don't know. It felt like the author wasn't exactly sure how she wanted to represent the story as well. So I think I'm still processing.
So for me, that's my same complaints actually. It's mostly the writing that really made me not like this book. The pacing felt off. Yes, the author did write a few weeks later, but it felt like it just it was just really bad writing. Because you're just gonna throw in from one chapter to another. A few weeks later went by, and I'm just like, okay, let's move on from whatever just happened. And it just felt like too much was happening at once. And again, the pacing felt really off, and it threw me off. The characters were very two-dimensional. Like they had no depth to them. Hades and Persephone, or Kate and Henry in this case, had absolutely no chemistry. She went from being like, I don't know if I want to marry you, I don't know if I want to share my bed with you, to being like, I love you. And it just, again, that could be contributed to the fact that the pacing fell off. Um, it was just, um, they had no chemistry. There was no build up to, I don't want to marry you, to I love you and I'm willing to spend the rest of half of my life with you in the underworld, whatever. Um, yeah, it's just to be honest, I don't mind the actual premise of the story, like the whole thing with um him needing to find like a replacement for Stephanie or whatever. Um, which I don't understand why he needs a replacement to right now. Maybe you guys can explain it to me later. I don't understand why he needs a replacement for Stephanie. Again, you guys can explain it to me later why he needs to have a wife, like the queen of the underworld kind of thing. Um, but I did like the premise, and I think that's probably the only thing that I liked about the book, that there is this premise of her being needed to complete these tests in order to replace for Stephanie. And then there was the mystery of why other candidates have failed before in the past. I did like all that, but again, it was just the bad writing, the bad pacing, and these characters with who are absolutely flat. There was just like nothing to them.
I also forgot to mention that there were like aspects of it that just felt very melodramatic. Like it was just like, really, this is
Yes.
how it. I
Yes.
had a really, really hard time suspending disbelief,
Yes.
especially in like the first third of the book.
It's just yes, I agree with that. I think for me it was more like the first half. First half of the book just felt like I was reading a bad high school fan fiction that was based off of Persephone and Hades, just because everything was just so big and so dramatic. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna be calm and stop doing it. But it didn't happen. Eventually it got kind of better. But regardless, right now my rating's at 2. Depending on how this discussion goes, like how mad I get at everything we start discussing, it may drop down to a 1, but it will stay at a 2 for now, because again, I did not hate the premise of the book. And to be honest, I did not hate the book at all, surprisingly, because I have so many complaints about it, but I didn't hate the book. And usually a 1-star book has to be like horrendous. This I don't think was horrendous. But yeah.
So I think it was like a 2 for me the majority of the way. I did rush the last 2 chapters, so I'm gonna say that I'm gonna reread the last 2 chapters after this.
The last 2 chapters was a bunch of, excuse me, but a bunch of bull.
I'm gonna reread the last
entire ending was a bunch of bull, but okay, fine. Okay.
And I may, depending on how I feel, I may bump it up to a 3, but right now it's a 2.
Girl. Okay.
So I kind of want to start off with, this is a reread for me, but it had been so long that I just forgot everything anyway, except for some small pieces here and there. So I originally read this in 2015. Flash forward, we're in 2022. I think that this book is definitely a product of its time, because it came out in 2011 and it's also a debut. So I definitely think it's a product of that time, and the I don't know what you call it, the growth may happen, because I know she has a bunch of other books out. I haven't read them before though. So
this is like a 4-book series, right?
It's like a 3 or 4 book. Yeah, that's why I wanted to reread it too, was because I never continued on with the series. So this is like my bounce back to reading the rest of the series now. For me, I think a lot of it is nostalgic, if that's the best way to put it, just because I've read it before. But I'm agreeing with like the plotting / pacing is not good, but the premise is interesting to me. That being said, I gave it a 4 just because I like the idea of it and I like the premise. It's
Did
not
Kat
one
just
of the,
scoff?
I know, I saw that.
Sorry. I'm trying to keep neutral while you talk good things about this book.
She has to save the sass for the spoilers. But it's definitely a product of its time. I'm using this as a springboard to finally continue on to the series. And it's actually, I started the second book and it's probably a good thing that I didn't keep going before the live show because I would have started talking about other things that haven't happened. But I'm interested to see if maybe things get better in the other books, or really what's going to happen in the other books, because I can tell that thing, like, just from the, like, I think I read the prologue in the first chapter, I could tell that things are already changing from this first book.
So it looks like we have a couple of comments in the chat. Meg's Bookish Ramblings said that she thought the book was okay, but it's not her favorite Persephone and Hades retelling, but she would eventually like to continue with the series.
This is my favorite comment here.
You know what's really funny is that, like, 2011 feels like yesterday to me. Like, it does not feel that far away. But, like, reading it, it seemed like there was such an emphasis on kind of like purity culture a bit. You know, like the way she was like, well, I don't date and I don't do this and I don't, and we're not going to do that. We're definitely not
I'm
going to do
not
that.
like any other girl.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the fact that I had to keep reading that italicized in place of like sex was making me bonkers.
2010s was a vibe.
I do think the thing with her, like the I don't date, was because I remember last weekend I was telling you guys how she gives Bella vibes, but I think she's just depressed because of her mother, because her mom is like dying.
I mean, obviously she had other things to think about, but like,
yeah, that's why I think the I don't date thing was coming in.
Okay, can we move on to spoilers?
Okay, we're in spoilers.
Okay, I get that, but the way the book made it seem was like, I don't date, like, I'm not like, it's the whole I'm not like other girls thing, and I hate with a passion that trope, because it makes it seem like other girls are bad, and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with other girls. There's nothing wrong if you have dated before, even if your mother was, some people, try to get away from the reality, and there have been some girls who are terrible home environments, and they have dated 100 million guys. There's nothing wrong, and it just gave me that I'm not like other girls vibe, and I hate that stupid trope.
So like the first third of this book, I was so angry. Like I was texting Kat, I was telling John, I was like, I threw my book across my bed a couple of times.
Girl, I couldn't.
Because like, how is, like, first of all, this girl tries to leave you on the other side of a river knowing that you can't swim, and then the next day, like, just because she's still alive, your BFFs. Like, the whole thing was like, no. And then it was just so hard to ever, and that's when I was saying, like, I couldn't suspend my disbelief. It was so hard for me to ever buy into her friendship with Ava. It was difficult for me to ever believe her friendship with James. Like, I was expecting more to come from the whole James thing, so I don't know if like you see more of that in another book, but it seemed like they were trying to establish a love triangle there, because he seemed very interested in her towards the end when they were hugging at the manor, and also finding out that, like, if things didn't work out with her and Hades and he took over, then she would be expected to be his wife. I was like, what the hell? Like, this is really messy. And then I kind of
like Twilight.
I kind of didn't understand, because at the end it tells you like who the characters are supposed to be, and Calliope is Hera, and unless I'm wrong, which is totally possible, I thought Hera was married to Zeus. Was she not?
Yeah.
So what? Why is she sweating?
I don't know.
And then the other thing was like,
I don't get it.
James was supposed to be Hermes. And I'm like, why is Hermes taking over, wanting to take over the underworld?
Girl, like, I have like 0 to none knowledge on the Greek mythology, but even I knew that was not right, and I'm like,
so like,
what's happening?
So it just felt like,
and then when you showed me that snippet, and I was like, that doesn't help me, because none of this makes sense. None of that like list of characters makes sense. Like James as Hermes, I was like, I was like, maybe it makes sense because you showed it to me like halfway when I was reading through the book, and I was like, maybe it'll make sense by then. It never made sense.
I
It
mean,
never
maybe
made
it makes sense at the end of the series, but at the beginning, I really just didn't understand why she made these characters who they were. Like, the only one that kind of made sense to me was Ava, because Ava was Aphrodite. And like, okay, if you're gonna make Ava like falling in love with everybody and like sleeping around and like doing whatever she was doing, then I guess. But like the other people,
Listen, the fact that she made like this author had the audacity to make Hades a virgin, and I was like, he is like literally like. I have not read a good Hades and Persephone retelling, but girl, if he's not like in my fantasies as the guy, like the representation of Hades from that book, Neon Gods, was good. I liked that representation because he was dark, mysterious, and sexy. This Hades, I don't know what he was.
Okay, I feel like I did not look into it as deep as everybody else did. I was just like, whatever, just reading it. Like,
No.
Did you even look at the cast? Like,
I did.
Okay, at
I
the
did.
end. All right.
Actually, at one point, I was like, I'm going to try and guess. And then I was like, no, I don't have time for this.
So Chloe's way more forgiving than we are.
Because I'm like, well, it is what it is. I was just like reading it. Like, I'm going to continue on with the series either way, but I didn't look into it as like deeply.
It's funny because I was just telling someone, I was like, no, I'm not very critical when I read books. I barely give 2s and 1s ever. And then I read this book and I was like, what is happening here? And I was like, maybe I can be critical. Like, maybe it really depends on what I'm reading.
We were talking about some book that Maddie Ness gave like a low rating, and I said that she tends to read more critically than we do. But that's funny.
You're like, see, I find, Kat, I feel like you read critically for the book club books, because I feel like you always have so much more to say about all of them than me.
Yeah, but I mean, but I don't like think as deeply as like Maddie Ness does. Like, she takes down notes, and I'm
no, yeah. No, I think she.
I don't have that kind of patience.
I think I remember hearing that she reads a book multiple times before making a review. So, like, if you're putting that much work, and like, if I read that again, I'd be able to cite every single thing that pissed me off. Oh, well, yeah. I don't DNF. I don't DNF. I save for later. So if I'm not into a book and it's not turning pages, I'll put it down and I'll save it for another time because I feel like I can't DNF.
Yeah,
you save for later and then you're currently reading.
Sometimes it's 15 years later, but you know.
Yeah, I can't DNF. Like, it's very rare that I DNF. I think like in my entire life I've DNF like maybe 5-6 books. So I will put myself through books like this to finish it.
See, I do DNF, but it's not rare that I give 1s and 2s. Like, there's always like I'd say 5 a year, maybe. Yeah, I give a lot of 4s.
It's just that sense of completion, even if it was a total shit show. It's that sense of completion.
You know what, like, really frustrated me is that everybody was their Greek mythological character except for this chick, right? There was already a Persephone. Persephone is gone.
Right.
And the idea that like she had to replace someone or was supposed to like be better than Persephone because Persephone didn't love Hades in this book. And the fact that it was just brought up so much and she was constantly competing with that idea of Persephone, it felt really uncomfortable to me.
I mean, I think that was the one part, despite the fact that she kept, like, so many times in the book kept comparing herself to Persephone, and I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta move on. I feel like that was the most genuine part that I read, like, from her thoughts, because her head was just a mess. But because she felt, I could understand, like, the feeling of inadequacy, like, of trying to live up to this other person that you've heard from so many people saying, the person that you love whatever, that you love this other person so much, and like trying to live up to that, and you're supposed to replace her and trying to live up to that image. I get her insecurity about it, but the fact that it kept being repeated over and over and over again in the book, it was just annoying at one point.
What do you think about the whole aphrodisiac thing? Like, because, you know, like, just the fact that Hades was a virgin, they were both virgins, obviously, but like,
girl, don't get me started. Go, keep going.
I don't even know what to say. I'm just like I get I don't know.
It was just weird because there's all this talk about sabotage, but that's the route that was done.
I just can't. I was like, I mean, I get it. Like the author's like train of thought, like, oh, you know, this Calliope, whatever, she wants to sabotage them. You know, we gotta get her to fail a test. Why not use lust? And I'm like, you could have used any.
You could have, but like,
you could have used any of the other ones, but you used this one, and then you get mad because, you know, he slept with you and not slept with, you know, whatever her name is, and not Calliope. And I'm like, and then the whole thing about being virgins come out, and I'm like, this whole scene is a mess, and I'm getting mad, so I'm gonna move on.
I think it's upsetting because I feel like by doing that, you take away the character's agency. Like, okay, yes, you want her to fall in love with him first before they have sex. Hey, that's cool, right? Like, she could be demisexual, whatever. I get that. Like, I relate to that. But then you're gonna make it because they were both on drugs. Like, I don't know. Like, it just,
and it kind of like, because it made, what's her name? Our main character, I keep forgetting her name, Kate. It made her even more insecure in their relationship because he started ignoring her immediately after, because he thought it was that her, everything that she told him the night before, because she admitted that it wasn't true. And I'm just like, these misunderstandings and these crazy ass scenarios are really starting to grate on my nerves. But oh man. Oh, also, okay, this is Greek mythology. Why are the tests based on the Catholic 7 deadly sins? I don't get it. I was like questioning myself. I was like, this is Greek mythology. What does Catholicism have anything to do with this? I was like, what the hell?
I didn't even think of that. But I know as I was, before we even got to all that, I was like, this is feeling really religious.
Right. I was just like, I was questioning that. I was like, what is going on? What does this have anything to do with it?
Oh my god, I'm gonna cry.
I know, I'm like, I don't even have anything to say. I'm just here for the ride at this point.
Oh my god.
I can't.
And the fact is that she questions it. She was like, the tests are based on the 7 deadly sins, but she never questions that it's based on a human religion and not, you know, based on the god, whatever. This book, I'm not gonna lie, it's frustrating, but it's fun to discuss. Oh man. Okay.
Chloe, tell us a little bit about your reading feelings. Like, I know you've already said it was a 4-star, you wanted to reread it, but I mean, was it really just smooth sailing for you the whole time?
So when I first read it, I feel like because I went back and I looked at my rating, and it was a 4.5 star then, and for some reason I had like memories of like really, really liking this book, but I mean that was like 7 or 8 years ago, and now I'm reading it again, and I mean I wasn't looking into it very deeply, so it was like as I was reading it, which most of it was last weekend, I think, I was just like, okay, she's giving me like depressing Bella vibes. I'm like, okay, that's fair. And then it was the not the premise, but like the plot or stuff. I really like the premise, like blah 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 blah. But I agree with like the pacing issues, and I definitely did not look deeply into the gods and goddesses and the seven deadly sins thing.
Where was Hades giving you butterflies? Like,
no, there's better Hades out there.
Thank you. Yes. I mean, I didn't necessarily like Neon Gods, but that was 100 times better than what this Hades was. Jesus.
I don't know if he was like a good Hades, but I did kind of like, the lonely, depressed boy who you want to reignite love within. And so that was kind of okay, but I don't know if he was a good representation of Hades. Although, like, sometimes people were really afraid of him, and he had his cold streaks. So I don't know. I think I still have mixed feelings. I'm looking forward to seeing where I land after rereading the last 2 chapters.
Chloe, so Desiree and I both pretty much started reading this book yesterday. So we were kind of like picking off, giving each other comments because we left for the last minute. So I want to read you. This was today, and I had no idea where Desiree was. She texted me, it's like, is this chick dumb? And I was like, yes, she is. Although I don't know what part you are, the answer is still yes. And it turned out to be a part about the marriage or something.
Oh yeah, she was like, I agreed to this thing, but I didn't agree to marriage. Like, girl.
Like, what did you agree
to? My question is, I mean, I kind of like, in that aspect, I kind of understand her confusion, because when he showed up to her, he was like, well, just read up on Persephone and you'll get it. And I'm like,
no, go back to that part right now. That was like the weirdest part in the whole book. My friend is dead. My bully is dead. And he's just like, so have you heard about Hades and Persephone?
Right? Go read up. I'm not going to tell you anything. Just go read up on her. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't.
Can you share this comment about yeah.
Okay. I'll check that out.
Yeah, I'll check that out too. I would like to read a good one. I feel like a lot of people are looking for that great Hades and Persephone, and I feel like a lot of people have been unsatisfied with the ones they've been picking up, but I'm sure like there has to be somebody out there that's done it really well.
Yeah.
I feel like I've read a lot of it recently because we read Neon Gods not that long ago. Read this. I read Lore Olympus a couple of weeks ago.
You said you didn't like that, right?
Which I think, I felt like I maybe like hyped it up too much in my mind because it was kind of confusing. So I'm gonna read the second volume, and if I don't like the second volume, then I'm just done with it. I recognize the covers.
I'm trying to think of what other ones that I know of that are like Hades and Persephone.
I really liked Neon Gods, and now I read a couple, the 2 books in her Wicked Villain series too. One of them also is Hades too. And I've really liked, I think there's only been one thing I didn't like by her, and it was a short story that I finished a couple days ago. I'm basically reading a lot of mythology stuff recently.
Yeah,
one of the Lady Janies. I don't think we haven't read anything else by her, right? Who wrote who wrote that dragon book that we read?
That was Jody Meadows.
Oh, okay.
That was last year, right?
Was it? I think so.
I don't know. I didn't like it. I don't remember.
So, like, what do you think is going to happen in the other books? Like, where is this going now? Like, are we going to spend the rest of our time in the underworld? Also, why is it only half the year?
because I mean, the original mythology was that Persephone was only with Hades for half the year, wasn't it?
Okay.
And then she would get dragged to the underworld for the other half of the year. So that kind of, she like the author kind of followed some of the Greek mythology myths. Yeah, but the thing is, I thought the book wrapped up nicely, so I was also confused of like what we're gonna see in the upcoming books, because she passed all the tests, so to say. She passed all the tests. You know, she's going on to her first summer without, you know, having to be in with Hades in the underworld. And I don't know. I thought everything. She got all her friends back. She got her mom back. So I thought it ended nicely. So it would have been a nice standalone, but then there's like 3 other books plus apparently a book of novellas. So I wonder what we're going to see in the next few books.
I feel like there has to be something, especially with the original Persephone falling in love with a mortal and then leaving. Like, I feel like they're going to introduce Hermes as like a love triangle kind of a thing.
I thought about that too. I was like, I think I wouldn't mind seeing James become a third, like a part of a triangle, even though she clearly says that she loves Hades, but she's gonna spend, like, for example, this first summer, she's gonna spend the summer in Greece with James. She invited him, so I wonder if there's going to be like some tension that I wouldn't mind seeing that. So.
So far, I mean, I've only read the prologue and like the first chapter or two. But so far it's like picking up at the end of summer, and that's it so far.
Oh,
but there
okay.
was like a hint towards like the villain in this book, so but I'm not very far. So.
In the way, like, yeah, in the way that Hades, at like when she was going, kept saying, you know, whatever you do, it's kind of like he kept saying like, what stays in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So he kept telling her that. I'm like, I was like, are you hinting? And then James suddenly shows up at the end of like Beyond the Gates, and I'm like, are you hinting something? Is this a foreshadowing of what's happening? But yeah. Chloe, do you have the physical book with you of the second book? Or are you like,
I don't. I
Oh, you have
only
one.
own the first one, so I've kind of just been reading the ebook right now.
I just want to know if it's a long book. If not, I'll hate reading.
I might get it from the library, so I'll take a look at the library.
Okay. Also, was anybody else surprised that her mom ended up being one of the gods? Because that was like the one part that actually genuinely took me by surprise. Because everybody else I was suspicious of, but her mom, I was not expecting that. When she was like in the room with all the thrones and they were waiting for all the gods to sit down, and then that one last person was coming in, I seriously thought that the last person that was going to come in was Persephone, the real life Persephone, and it turned out to be her mom. And I was like, oh, okay, that took me like by
Did
surprise.
they ever officially name her though?
What do you mean? Name
like
who?
her mom?
Yeah.
What was her name? Like what god was she?
She was Hera, wasn't she? Yeah.
No.
No. Calliope is Hera.
She's, hold on.
Oh, she was Diana.
Right, Diana. When her last name
she's
was
Demeter.
Demeter, yes.
What?
I'm telling you, nothing makes
You
sense.
didn't reread the last
It's Persephone's mom.
What?
Yes.
Demeter was Persephone's mom.
Right,
Yes.
and this is what you're missing from the last. So Kate they're like sisters. According to the book, they're sisters because
That's uncomfortable.
Demeter is Persephone's mom, but she's also Kate's
Really?
mom.
Like, it doesn't work
But
with one.
listen. Kate is Demeter's. She's Diana Winter's mom, who is she had a mortal body, and the mortal body died. Remember at the end, James takes her to go see her body. That was her mortal body, and Kate came from that body. And then Demeter had Persephone, like in her godlike body, that's Persephone. So Kate is not a god because she came from a mortal body.
Right, from a mortal body. Okay.
Right.
But
they're still like sisters in a way. Like, yeah.
I know at one point I was like, because I was trying to guess. You know what? I think that was like the thing that intrigued me the most. I was like, who's the killer? Who's the one that's been killing all the girls? And so I was like really interested. I don't know who I thought it was at first. I was like,
You
maybe
thought
it's
it was
Irene.
the teacher.
Yeah, I was like, maybe it's Irene. I literally have no logical reason for thinking that. I'm just gonna guess that it's Irene. But then I was like, it's Calliope. And I was like, this bitch trying to take her to a picnic on the river Styx. What the hell?
And she was like, "Oh yeah, let's go. That's perfectly reasonable. Let's just go." Knowing that there is somebody out there trying to kill me. I have my big badass guard who at the end of the day wasn't good for anything anyways because I still died. But let's go to the river Styx.
One thing that I didn't understand because I kind of rushed through those last couple chapters, if she failed the lust test, then how did she?
I didn't get that either. I don't understand. Because apparently, so there were there were these 7 original tests, but then there were 2 other tests that had nothing to do with, well, there was pride and humility. I know humility is not one of the 7 deadly sins.
No, but pride is.
So she passed humility. So I think that kind of counted as number 7 for the lust because they said that she had to pass 7 tests. They didn't necessarily tell her which of the 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and by accepting that she failed and was like accepting the outcome,
showed humility.
She passed the other one.
Yeah. So like a loophole kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't answer your question. So you were like, did anybody know that her mom? I knew that there was something going on with her mom. Like when they first pulled up to the gates, I felt like her mom was acting fishy, and I felt like, I didn't necessarily know she was one of the gods, but I felt like she was somehow involved in that world, being that that's where she grew up, and like she was familiar with it, and like like every time it came up, their conversations seemed weird. She seemed like she had insider information and was trying not to reveal it. So I felt like there was going to be a reveal there in regards to her mom.
Yeah, I mean, I did feel like that her mom knew more than she was sharing. But like when she walked in and it was revealed that it was her mom and not like Persephone, I think it was just because I had my heart set on that Persephone was still alive. And that was her walking in. I was genuinely like super surprised that it was her mom.
Do you think Persephone is going to reappear in any of the future books?
I think it would be cool. But then how long ago was that? Because they said that she became mortal. So I'm assuming, I don't know how long
if she's ago that was. Dead and these 2 people run the underworld, then they'll probably interact with dead people at some point.
That's true. That's a good point. Because I'm assuming Hades would have said, yeah, she's dead. She's in the underworld. I've seen her. I'm just like, well, that's kind of creepy. But
like awkward.
How did you feel about the whole thing with Ava and Dionysus and Apollo?
You're telling me Greek
the whole bloody massacre.
That kind of confused me in the end because I'm like, is he still dead? I don't really know.
It seemed
I'm
like
confused on that part.
First of all, I didn't even know. Like, I don't understand this whole alive dead thing because, like,
I was confused.
Because originally, when she had gotten to the manor, they told her, "You're the only person alive. Everybody else here is dead." Right, is what they had told her. So then,
what I understood, it was kind of like the middle ground where, like,
or is this why they had different names? It's like, because, like, was Dionysus in Xander's human body?
So there was an I already returned my ebook, so I can't read it anymore. But there was an explanation about the names. It's towards the end of the middle towards the end of the book. It does explain a little bit about the names. I want to say it has something to do that these are their original names, but they became known as their Greek names through the through the through humans, and that's how everybody knows them as. But that's their real name, like the other names in the book that we. You guys need you guys have the book. Please find that and let me know. But there is a mention about why the names are different.
Mr. Rorosuri says the covers of this series are pretty though.
But anyway, the from what I understood, like the mansion where they're the manor that where they are, it's kind of like an in between. So they haven't moved on yet, and once they move on, they will go to the beyond, which is where the underworld is.
Yeah.
So when Theo killed Xander, because he's already dead. Xander, he moved Xander to the. He basically forced Xander to go to the beyond. At least that's how I was understanding. But again, this book was like, like a dumpster fire, so I could be wrong in my assumption. But that's how I understood.
And who was okay? So Theo's sister was
also
Ella.
My question: if like sorry, I have lots of questions. Okay, if her mom was dying and she was seeing her through the dreams, why not let her mom die and have Hades bring her mom into the manor like he did with Ava? Why did we have to go through this dream sequence thing? Why not just bring her to the manor so you can have her for real, like right there? I mean, granted, it's not part of the grand plan to reveal that her mom's a god at the end, but still, like, she never questioned that.
Would have messed up that whole thing, but yeah.
But she never questioned that. Like, she knew that Hades brought Ava over. She never questioned, why don't we just let my mom go? She's suffering in this body, and she can come back here and be with me. I was like, I don't know. That's what I would question that.
I also thought it was weird that, like, go ahead. Sorry.
Maybe she was thinking about what if she doesn't pass and then she's not in the house anymore.
Wait, what do you mean? Because they didn't Hades put Ava in the manor, so why wouldn't he be able to do the same for the mom?
But yes, but what if Kate doesn't pass? Okay. So then she leaves the manor. Like, once you're in the manor, aren't you stuck in the manor?
I think so. I don't know. Yeah, I guess. But she was always like adamant, like especially like throughout the entire book, she was like always adamant that these last 6 months is going to be like my last. She kept saying, "Oh, I have just a little bit time left to say goodbye." That once she gets out into the real world, once her 6 months are up, that she would just have maybe the chance of saying goodbye to her mom. So I don't know. At least I don't know. I guess you're right, but
I thought it was weird that she was okay with her knowing that her mom was in a hospital somewhere. And like, yeah, she was seeing her in her dreams, but like, that's like months.
I mean, yeah, but
months that she didn't like actually physically go see her mom, and then she was just like, okay, well, these dreams are good enough. Like, she didn't believe anything else, but those dreams felt real enough. So she was like, I'm rolling with that.
So many questions. But yeah.
But was her mom really in a hospital somewhere? Because at the end, they said the town didn't exist.
Right? I was just thinking about that. I was like, wait a second, the town doesn't even freaking exist. So where's the mom? Did she actually, like, was she dead the whole time and she's been speaking to the mom as a deity, which she was, I mean, but it's just weird. I don't know what else to say. I think I got all my feelings out.
I think I might have also.
We can go ahead into final thoughts then, if you want to start, Desiree.
So like I said, I'm going to reread the last 2 chapters, kind of feel where I land, whether it's a 2 or a 3. And I think that will also help me decide if I care enough to move on with the series. Because, like, I know definitely in that first third, I didn't even want to buy the audiobook, you know?
Wait, did you buy the audiobook? Okay. I was like, girl, I hope you
didn't.
didn't
I
always.
really didn't want to. And I kind of didn't care. I was like, I'm not going to continue with the series. I bought the book used. I was like, what am I going to do with it now? But now I kind of think I might. Like, there's a little chance that I might continue with the series. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm considering maybe like reading the second book just to see where it goes. If James becomes a love triangle, if the writing gets any better. But yeah, if
I
you
feel
guys
like
watch,
the writing has to, like, just by nature, practice makes
I mean,
perfect.
okay, I will give the author credit. It is a debut, and I feel like not a lot of authors ace the debut. Like, there are lots of flaws, but but this I mean this yeah. So if you watch the live show, I did not like the book. I like the premise of the story. I still don't get the point of why we needed to replace Persephone, but it is a thing. That's the theme of the story, finding a replacement for.
Well, there was a few times where he said that there's so much to deal with handling the underworld that it's not a job for one person, and that's why they needed a second person.
I mean, okay. Okay. But okay, well, there's the reason, which I think is a shitty reason. But lost my train of thought. I did not like this book. I will keep it at 2 stars because this discussion has inflamed my hate for this book, which I did not hate, but I really, really disliked it because the writing was just bad. The pacing felt off. The characters were very two-dimensional. So I will keep it at a 2. I will maybe, depending how big the second book is, if it's like longer, if it's anywhere close to 400 pages, I probably won't. But if it's like, this book was very, very short, it's less than 300 pages. So it was actually genuinely very easy to read. So I might pick up the second book and see how it goes. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
I'll get the second one from the library and I'll tell you how it goes. This was a reread for me. I gave it 4 stars. I recognize its flaws, even though I did not read it critically enough. I am going to continue on with the series. I did start the second book, but I'm not very far into it yet, so we'll see. But I am curious to see where the rest of the series goes. I think it's 3 books, and then there's some novellas in between. But yeah, it was fun to reread it and kind of think back on my thoughts from when I originally read it, although I don't really remember much from when I originally read it. So yeah, those are the final thoughts for The Goddess Test by Amy Carter. Next month in August, which is already tomorrow, I don't have a copy of the book, but I'm going to pull up the cover real quick. We are reading Full Disclosure by Cameron Garrett. And our live show is going to be on Sunday, August 28th at 6 p.m. on this channel. Excuse me. I don't know if this is her debut or if she's written other things, but I've never read anything by Cameron Garrett before. So, yes. If you'd like to join us for that, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Booktube Chicks for information regarding the live show, reminders of the live show date, and any changes that may occur. What else is coming up? When is Pages and Pals? Is that on the 13th? Is that right?
You're muted, Kat.
Sorry, yes, the 13th.
Okay, so on August 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing Pages and Pals, a monthly live read-in. That's going to be over on Kathleen's channel, which is linked in the description below. and that's just some reading sprints with friends. You can read whatever you want. We're just doing some short sprints. And then 1 week from today, on August 7th, Desiree and I are doing the quarterly romance book club. That is for quarter 3. We read Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. And we're going to be live on Desiree's channel at 6 p.m. And her channel is linked down below as well. So that is everything that is coming up for the month of August. We hope you guys enjoyed our live discussion of the Goddess Test. Thank you to everybody who came, and we will see you all next month for Full Disclosure. Bye.
Bye.